Welcome back to the channel, everybody. You never want to be caught waiting on late data. So today what I'm going to do is show you a few techniques in MySQL that will allow you to identify late or latent data pretty rapidly. So here we are in MySQL, and what we're going to do is we're going to audit our installs table. So here's our installs table. It's called fact player installs. We're returning all of the columns, and then we are basically taking the install date time and the insert date time and converting them from strings to datetime values. So the best tool you can use when you're hunting for latent data is a insert date time column. So typically in your SQL tables, in your relational database, there will be columns that data engineers put in those SQL tables, and they will be insertion date time columns so that the data engineer can document the date and time when a new record was added or appended to an existing SQL table. So in our installs table, you'll notice that we have an install date time and then an insert date time. So again, many SQL tables have a insertion date time column or field that you can use to understand whether or not the data that has arrived on time or late. So let's go ahead and put this in a subselect. We can call it installs. And we're just going to reference all of the same columns, but remove any calculations that were done inside the subselect. So we can remove this and this, which again is just converting those string date times into an actual date time format. Let's add this prefix here. And let's add one new column. We'll call it difference in hours. And what we ultimately want to do is we want to know how soon after install does that record get inserted into our install SQL table. This is what we're going to find out. We use a timestamp diff function. And we want to know what is the difference in hours between a customer's install and then that installation being inserted into our installs table. Let's pull back a few records. And if we don't have any data latency issues, this value returned should be 0. So a customer installs, and then maybe 5 minutes later, that record gets inserted into our installs table. Fantastic. So as you can see in our difference in hours column, most of the values are 0. This indicates that we have a pretty good process, right? Where the customer installs, and a few minutes later, the record appears in our installs table. So let's look at a player example. We have this player right here that installed on May 3rd, 2023, and the record got inserted into this installs table about 7 minutes later. That's pretty good. So as we scan the rest of these records, we'll see there are a couple of outliers. So what's this? We have a customer who installed on April 15, 2023, but the record didn't show up in our installs table until the next day, April 16th, exactly 36 hours later. So this is an example of latent data. So what we're going to do is let's actually just isolate and pull back all of the latent data so that we can document it ourselves and share it with our data engineers. So we'll do where this difference in hours is greater than 0. Great. Okay, we have quite a few examples of customers installing and then their installation data not making it to our install SQL table until 36 hours later or until the following day. So these are all records that are arriving pretty late. So what I would recommend is exporting this to Excel and sharing that with your data engineers. So we can do that together now. So here we are in Excel. We took all of the offending records or the records that show data latency and we put them in this Excel file here. So as you can see, we have all of these customers that installed, and for example, we have this one customer that installed on April 15th. We didn't receive the data until the next day, April 16th, and that's the same case for all of these records. So now that we have this data organized, you can go ahead and share this with your data engineers and get ahead of any data latency issues through the methods that we discussed today. If you like this tutorial, please continue to like and subscribe. Thank you very much.